Voiceover Social.
Hello, Rob.
Hello, Helen Bee.
Hello, how are you?
Yes, I'm fine. Thank you very much.
I do love the theme tune. I know I hear it quite a bit, but I do love it.
Good. You'll hear it a lot more before we're finished with the podcast.
That is true. That is true. So, how's things? What have you been up to since the last episode?
I can't even remember when the last episode was and what I was doing then.
It was money, Rob.
It's been one of those bloody months.
It has been one of those months. It has been crazy busy. I've been having some fun updating some of my systems. Woo! That's exciting. But oh my word, it needs doing. But oh my word, it's so time consuming. I am paying someone else to do it for me, but there's still so much prep to do, and doing that alongside all the client work is, yes, it's quite a lot. My brain's hurting a bit.
Yes, I know it is, because I have to put up with you after you've finished in the studio for the day.
Sorry. Yeah. It'll be worth it though. It'll be lovely when it's working. Lots of automations coming, which I can't wait for. And it means that I can, I've got some new service ideas on the horizon as well, which is quite exciting.
Yes.
And we were at eVocation, which was so cool.
Yes, last weekend we spent an entire weekend online, largely talking one-to-one with voiceovers about studios and websites and all that kind of stuff that we do for our day jobs. It
was lovely. It was so good. The only downside was the time zone differences made it. I mean, we got a lie in, which was lovely.
We did. We don't get those on UK conferences.
No, we don't. We certainly don't. But yes, I failed to make it to any of the evening socials because they didn't start until about 1:30 UK time.
Yes.
And yeah, I spent too long on Zoom by that point of the day, so collapsed. But it was so lovely. It was lovely to meet everybody and chat to people. And thank you again to Carin and Jamie for letting us join in the fun.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. So, have we got any news?
We do. We've got some very exciting news. We've got another social. Yay!
Well, that's good. Where's this one then?
This one is in Finland.
Finland.
We have another European one joined us. So we've got two wonderful VOs helping us with this one. We've got Sue and Jenny, who are based in Helsinki in Finland, and the Facebook group is up and operational, and we'll put some links in the show notes. They haven't got a date for the social yet because they wanted to get a few more people involved in the group, but it's going to be a good one. So what are we up to this time, this podcast? Because you've not asked me to interview anybody this month, and I'm a wee bit concerned.
Well, you see, what we're doing is, so there's this thing that we have discovered over the months that we have been doing the podcast, and that thing is that you and me aren't actually very good at interviewing people.
What do you mean?
Well, so what I mean by that is that I think the shortest interview that we've done so far has been about an hour and a quarter. And obviously that has needed whittling down to be a 20, 30-minute interview. So that leaves a lot of stuff on the proverbial cutting room floor.
The problem is we have good guests and we have good conversations, Rob. It's too easy to talk to people.
It is, but
I'm not going to blame our lack of skills.
Okay, but you are implying, therefore, that if we are going to be taking our lack of skill into hand, it means that we have to get less good guests.
Oh, yeah, okay. No, scrap that. That makes no sense.
Yes, it's our fault.
Damn it.
It's our fault that the interviews go on too long. Okay. So what I thought we'd do this month, instead of interviewing someone else and leaving a lot of stuff on the cutting room floor again, is go through some of the bits that we've had to miss out of past interviews. Now, I know that sounds like it's outtakes and clip show and it's all second-rate stuff, but it really, really isn't. The people we've had on have been first rate and have had a lot to say. And a lot of the interview has been cut out purely for time purposes and to make sure that the podcast stays as short as it can do, and keeps people's interest and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I can confirm that actually this has taken more of your editing time than any other previous episode we've ever done.
It has taken absolutely ages to put this together because I've had to listen to everything again and then double check it with the final interviews to make sure that I'm not
repeating myself.
Yeah, indeed.
But I don't know what's coming. This is quite exciting.
Yeah, so I have a number of clips lined up, which I haven't told Helen what we're going to play to her. So I shall now line up this first clip and play you the first clip. This one is from our interview with Emma and Brown that we did in July, I think it was, I can't remember. And this was a great interview to do because they basically kind of half interviewed each other.
So much fun.
So this is Emma asking Brown a question. And I really like this because, you know, when we're talking about creative people, we often kind of think that we're born to be creative. And, you know, maybe if we look back at our childhood, there's little clues as to, you know, where we should be and what we should be doing with our life and all the rest of it. And I think this clip really kind of plays into that. And, this is Emma talking to Brown.
Did you love radio before that, Brown? Was it kind of in your blood?
You would have found me at night under the pillow, under the duvet, listening to Radio Caroline or something like that. But I wouldn't. Yeah, I did have a kind of like my first experience was as an 8-year-old when my cousins used to come and stay with us for a week in the summer, and we had an old dansette record player. You know, the little thing that you could put 10 singles on and it would do them one after the other, and. You describe yourself as a nerd. I can out-nerd you 100-fold. Because what I used to make my poor cousins do was sit out in the hallway while I was in a nearby room with the dansette, and I got the Hoover tube off the Hoover, put one end against the speaker of the dansette and the other end through the door, so they had to listen to the other end of the tube. And I would play records, and then when the record had finished, I would take the tube to my mouth and say, this is, and put another record on. That was about the age of 8 or 9, so I think I can out-nerd you there, you see.
That is fantastic. That is... I find this, when I talk to people who are into radio and who are voiceovers, particularly radio people, they start young. Do you know what I mean? Because me and my cousin Charlie, he had a cassette recorder that he was given for his birthday. And we used to make radio shows on that when we were about 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And then we used to send them to Kenny Everett. Every week we would make a cassette and we would send it to Kenny Everett.
Oh, my word. I mean, I used to...
I hope you got a reply.
We did. He sent it.
He said, stop sending those bloody awful cassettes.
I think to get rid of us, he sent us autographed photos and stuff. He was very kind.
That's so cool. I love that.
Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it? And I think
what a great story.
It's a great little insight into Brown and Emma as young whippersnappers.
Brown torturing his cousins.
I like that clip a lot. I thought we'd start with something light and jolly. Moving on to the next clip, this is not
okay.
This is not light and jolly, but it's not difficult. This is from last month's podcast with Ray Dodd, and this is talking about kind of slightly changing our approach, if you like, to generosity.
One of the things you mentioned briefly in that is about the generosity to ourselves as well, and how. I can't quite remember how you phrased it originally, so I will see if but it was talking about generosity and about
I know.
We're not being generous if we say we do a job full time and when we get to 65, 70 can't afford to retire because we haven't been paying ourselves enough money.
Yeah.
That isn't generous. And I'd never thought of it in that way in terms of money and generosity, because generosity to me is giving. Passing it on. It's how can it be generous to keep it?
Yeah. I think my original post I wrote was, if it's not generous to you, it's not generous to them.
Yeah, particularly with work like working for free or just working for lower rates, or when we start out working for lower rates because we don't deem that we're experienced enough and therefore we can't charge enough.
Yeah.
Whereas actually, does that do us any help long term? I mean, I guess everybody does that. I mean, I certainly did.
I think do you know what's interesting though? I didn't do that. And the reason for that is when I started my business, I was the breadwinner. I had no business, but I had a business. I was a hypnobirthing teacher, and I had a small business that was earning between 300 and I think probably my best month was like 1,500 to £2,000. But I became the sole earner in our family. And I had this idea. It was, like I said, it wasn't money coaching at the time. I had this idea for a coaching business and it wouldn't leave me alone. And I was like, there's a lot of capacity for me to make money. So I went in, and I often talk about baby business Ray, which was like the me that started out. I went in and I charged, and it's like I said, it's not a lot of money compared to what I charge now. But at the time, I went in and charged £1,000 to £1,500, I think, for 3 months coaching. It was something like that, maybe 4 months randomly. But I charged higher amounts straight away, because if I didn't do that, and this wasn't thought through at the time, but if I didn't do that, I couldn't support my family.
Yeah.
I just had to charge what would make enough money. And I'm in an industry where it's the most ridiculous pricing structure. And it's like, how long is a piece of string in the coaching industry? I've seen £25 an hour for coaching. I've seen $1 million for 6 months. I think that's the most I've ever seen. So the way you charge, it's like, it's helpful in some ways, but it's also kind of like, well, where do I go? What am I supposed to? Especially because a lot of coaches are the sort of people who are like, give me the right answer. What's the correct way to do this? So but I did that straight away because it had to be generous to me too. Yeah. It had to be, because otherwise I was not going to be coaching. I was going to be going and getting a job, honestly, in a supermarket or something, just anything. Because we were at a point a few months before that where I was opening up the cupboard and my kids were hungry. So I had a 18-month-old and a 3-year-old, I think, maybe slightly older. And I would open up the cupboards, they were hungry. And for the first time in my life, there was no food, and I didn't know how we were going to get food. So I'd have to call up family and be like, can you drop off some shopping? And can you go now because my child is hungry? Yeah. So I didn't have that choice. We're talking about, people who have different choices. I didn't have that choice, but to make it generous to me. And then I noticed that if we go back to one of the first things we talked about, when you're charging for your ideal client, it will also be generous for them too. So when you charge the amount of money that works for your right fit person, and by the way, there's, you might have a group of those, but there's a group of those people. It's not just an individual. It's like an en masse, your right fit person. Then that investment is going to have an impact for them too. It's going to if you feel like you're scrimping, like you're getting the cheap person, that's not necessarily a good fit for your whole project. You want to feel like, this person, is carrying the weight of whatever you're wanting to do, that they're giving off the right vibe, that they have that sort of experience or whatever it is. And so that's super important. Like, it's actually more generous to them for you to charge in accordance with what works for you too. Yeah. There'll be a match there.
I think I get more confused by the word generosity now than I ever did after listening to you talk about it, because suddenly I'm like, oh, but is it generous? And I just go in this. Yeah, my brain does a really fun loop.
I think we mix up generosity with martyrdom a lot of the time. Yeah. So we feel like true generosity involves sacrifice on our part, and actually that's not. I think that's an old way of thinking about. I think it's, it makes sense. I understand why people thought like that in a kind of historical context, but for where we're at now, I don't think, we know that, again, let's go back to a lot of this stuff we've been talking about like, we could look at Jeff Bezos and all of those people who are not treating their workers very well, right? They're making loads of money, but they're treating their workers badly. A lot of us running our own businesses are doing a version of that. We're doing all the work and we're treating our worker, ourselves, really badly. We're underpaying them. I always say to my clients, you are the sort of people that would go on marches because nurses are being underpaid, and yet you won't charge the amount you want it. Like, you're like, this is terrible. Let's up with the unions, and I'm totally with you, but also you need a union. Like, you are not charging, you're underpaying yourself and you're struggling, and that doesn't align with our values. That isn't who most of us are when we look outside of ourselves. So we need to bring that to our own experience.
Every time I hear Ray talking about generosity like that, it hits me like a punch in the stomach. It's weird. It scares me as much as it elates me, because I am probably not being generous enough to myself. I think we can both agree on that.
Yeah, I mean, I do completely agree on that. But part of the reason why I pulled that clip out was really that last little bit about going on marches to support the nurses, and yet we're not supporting ourselves as much as we should be doing. And I just think that, it's such a good point, and it's such a different way of looking at things. I mean, if you actually broke down how much you earn over the course of a working week, how close are you to minimum wage? And I don't mean that you might be getting close to it from above. I mean, you might be well below it, and the amount of work you do. But this is the lifestyle that we choose when we go self-employed. And it's part of the ride, isn't it? Is that you kind of put up with the rough and the smooth and all shades in between.
To a certain extent, yes, but I think far too many of us presume that we have to be sacrificial to our clients. And I think, and I've heard it in workshops and stuff that we've run as well, that in order to give good service, there has to be that the client always comes first. And actually, I'd really disagree with that. I think we have to make sure that we are, like people going away with travel kits all the time and always being on call. You're allowed a holiday. You're allowed a break.
Yeah.
You're allowed to turn your phone off. You're allowed to not have to answer emails within 5 minutes. Okay. Sometimes that does have consequences if it's auditions and stuff like that. I get that. But I'm getting better at setting these boundaries of breaks. But yes, I am. If I actually added up the amount of hours, especially in the first couple of years of running this business, oh my word, I dread to think what my hourly rate was. Horrifically embarrassing.
Sure. And I think the other thing about that as well is that with this self-generosity, if I can kind of slightly rephrase things, is that if you are not looking after yourself, either physically or mentally or however it is, then how are you going to deliver a good product for your client?
Well, you're going to get ill if nothing else.
Yeah, you're going to get ill. And therefore, by looking after yourself, you are looking after your client.
Yeah. I really like there was something else she said which is similar about if your ideal client can't afford to pay you, they're not your ideal client.
That may have been in the actual podcast.
Yeah, and I think that is about this self-generosity. It's all linked together. I think it was in the actual podcast. We kept the really, really good bit. But yeah, I actually really struggle listening to that in a lot of ways because it makes me realise how terrible I am at boundaries sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, Ray said a lot of other stuff about pricing as well, which is still on the cutting room floor. So you may find another clip show with Ray on at some point in the future.
Yeah.
However, moving on to the next clip, something you said there about taking holidays and stuff.
Okay.
Part of this next clip.
Oh, did I segue?
Well, not really, because then we've moved on again. But part of this may answer some of that kind of query about holidays and work and things like that. So this time we're going back to our August podcast and we're talking to Carin and Jamie. We talked to them quite a lot. Partly about evocation, which was just this last weekend, partly about Nava, but also quite a lot about AI. So this is kind of a montage of thoughts, which they both had, mainly Carin actually, but a little bit of Jamie in there as well, about various different aspects of AI and some of the caution that voiceovers have been approaching it with, rightly or wrongly. So yeah, we can now have a listen to what Jamie and Carin and Jamie have to say about AI.
That's what we found. Nava has been to Capitol Hill in the U.S. twice now. And what we found is that there's huge support on every side of the aisle because no one wants a deepfake made of them.
Yeah.
No politician wants to say something that they didn't actually say.
Yeah.
And there are aspects of this that are important to both liberals and conservatives.
Yeah.
There's actually a huge problem right now in our country with AI-generated child pornography.
Wow.
And there's a question of whether or not it's actually legal because you're using the source material from actual children, but they weren't there and didn't participate in the process. And so it's just insane. So I think every single legislator wants to figure out a solution to this. But then there's also the giant companies like Meta and Amazon and Google and Microsoft. And they're the ones that are saying, actually, we want kind of free reign to figure this out, to figure out the technology without a lot of parameters in place. So it's a very interesting time in history where you have to question reality and be very vigilant about talking about technology in general.
And, scams have been going on in voiceover for as long as I've been in voiceover. It's not just limited to AI. So the more education you get in, any education, whether it's podcasts, whether it's books, whether it's like social media and you're learning in Facebook groups, keeping abreast of everything that's going on is going to help your career hugely, just being educated in it. And whether that be an AI scam or a, overpayment scam or whatever the other fashionable scams are at the time. It's never a bad thing to be educated. But also, like I said before, don't get paranoid about it as well.
I agree with don't get paranoid. And also, I have a couple of synthetic voices that exist that I have control over, and they work for me when I am not working. So it's a nice source of passive income. I'll tell you a story, and that's that when we were in D.C. in November, I was literally walking through the Senate building, and we had meetings scheduled all day. I do a lot of true crime narration and documentary narration, and I had one of my producers reach out to me and say, oh my gosh, we had to rewrite a line. We have to ship tonight. Can you please send a pickup of this one line and right now? Yep. And I said, I'm really sorry. I have meetings all day. I'm walking through the Senate building right now, fighting for AI protections. And I said, but I do have a synthetic voice. I can generate a synthetic version of this line. You can tell me if it fits, and if it does, maybe it's usable. If not, I will go back to my hotel room. Everyone else can take care of the meetings, and I'll record it from my hotel room. So I took all of the sound files that I had recorded for that episode so far. I put it into 11 Labs. I generated just the one sentence that they needed, which matched the sound of the entire episode perfectly. I generated 3 different versions. I sent them 3 different takes. They said, this is great. And they put it in, and it's in the episode. And I did it from my phone. That was the amazing thing. I was literally walking, doing this from my phone. I had control over it. The producers knew what I was doing. I wasn't hiding it from them. So everyone was on board with that, and it solved a problem that I had, which was great.
There's a lot to say about AI.
Oh my word, isn't there?
And I think what we have there is a whole spectrum of comments from this quite positive, in a way, message about being able to use that self-regulated AI voice and how that may prevent you having to take your microphone on holiday with you.
It's a brilliant example.
It's a brilliant example, yeah. So there's that. There's the danger of scams, and I think, Jamie's quite right that there's scams everywhere. It's a new front to have to watch.
Yes. But
the risks of other types of scams are probably greater than the risk of AI scams.
Yeah.
Say that with all sorts of caveats on, but that's how I think things are at the moment. And then there is the whole sort of legal argument about the example there about the child pornography, but that's arguments of legal arguments, moral arguments, ethical, philosophical, all sorts of arguments about that. So AI is not going away. It is another watershed moment in technology, similar to the invention of the internet, the invention of the printing press, the invention of the wheel. It's going to be an absolute watershed moment, and society moving as fast as it is now, then things are perhaps going to progress quicker than those previous inventions. But, it is something that isn't going away and that we have to engage with.
Yeah.
Whether we wish to or not, we can't put our heads in the sands because,
I agree.
We will just be kind of left behind, sitting on the beach, wailing into a bucket.
And I think there are some, like Carin's one example, but there are many other examples of where it can be phenomenally helpful having AI and automation and stuff like that. And it's just the protections that come with it, you're right, are so important. And there is legislation. Since we recorded that, I think California brought in more legislation to help protect the voice and give it as much right as your DNA.
Sure. So, I think there's lots more to say about that, and I'm sure we will do in future episodes. But for now, let's move on to another great big bugbear of modern life, and that is social media. And so this is from June's interview with Carin. which was generally about marketing. But this one in particular, this little clip in particular, and this, can't remember, this may be a montage of clips again, is about using social media for marketing.
So you mentioning the social media thing, I think there's a real bugbear of mine, particularly as well, is that there's a couple of... One, if you go on social media, there are so many people, so many experts, the experts in bunny ears again, where they're telling you that to be successful on social media, you need to post at least 400 times a day, and you need to do at least 4 video content. And if you're not on Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, I don't know how. One, where the hell am I supposed to actually do some client work in amongst all that wonderful content creation? But also as someone that, let's face it, Rob, if I pointed a video camera at you, I think I could probably guess what your immediate gut reaction.
Well, we're not filming this now, so
Exactly. You dancing around to the latest, I don't know, Harry Styles song. As much as I'd quite like to see it, it's never going to happen. But you send the two of us to a networking event that's based in a pub somewhere, and then we're in our element, which is why we've taken on the Voiceover Social, because that's where we feel comfortable, and that's where we're good.
I love that you've come to that conclusion. And it's very classic, I think, of you two being rule breakers. But it doesn't happen overnight. It takes confidence building, and it takes a certain level of maturity, I think, to look at all the advice and go, well, that's nonsense. I can't be on 7 channels and do my work. But I think for most people, they see that advice and think, well, that means I'm not a proper business owner because I'm not able to do all of those things. And there are all these absolute nonsense examples of people who get up at 5 and schedule all their posts and have a team and all of this nonsense. It's not real life. It's not real life. No. I would say I'm a marketing expert. I probably should be by now after 20 odd years doing this job. But I don't do my marketing that way. My marketing is far from perfect. I can theoretically tell you all the right things to do. I can write an amazing launch plan. I can do all of these things, but my feet are firmly planted on the ground. And I know, people have limited resources and they're not going to implement those things.
One of the other things that I love that you've taught me to do is to recycle everything. And I do that with Gay Abandon now. It's great. I have literally gone back a year recently because I was really busy. We used to get admin support from someone that used to do social media scheduling for various reasons. She had to stop that contract really last minute, which is a real... Anyway. And so all of a sudden I had nothing at all scheduled to go out on social medias. And I was just like, oh, shit. One, I told myself that actually having a few weeks away from it when it was fine and the world wasn't going to end, and the world didn't end. But also I just went through old posts and literally reposted exactly the same thing. Same image, same wording.
And did the world come off its axis? No.
Nobody noticed. No.
I love that example because, as you were saying, time off. Exactly, you don't have to be on social media all the time. And there's never nothing in terms of content. Every single person has written emails to clients that had little nuggets in there that can be repurposed. Most people who've written on social media can repost that because the smallest, and anybody who looks at their social media numbers, which I know very few people do, but go and look at your insights and be ready to be depressed because you might think you have 100 followers and you will look at the numbers and you'll see that maybe 10 of them see your content regularly. It's shocking.
Yeah.
So the amount of mental effort and worry that people spend on worrying about social media, creating social media content from scratch, all of this, their time and efforts can be spent so much better on other aspects of marketing.
I agree.
And I feel people forget to look at marketing as an ecosystem with lots of moving parts, whether that is networking at the pub or going to a conference or going to a retreat or doing local press. There are so many different things you could do. But I feel like social media has been given this crown for all the wrong reasons. And in my opinion, a little prediction that might come back and bite me in a year's time. Social media is falling out of favour with a lot of people. The algorithms have made it such, and the pay-to-play kind of vibe has made it so that people's business content isn't seen in the same way.
Can you imagine if somebody says, I don't know, say they're posting 2 or 3 posts on social media. We're supposed to post 3 or 4 times a day. Maybe it's an hour or 2 hours a week doing social media content. Can you imagine how good somebody's website would be if that's how much time they spent on it?
Exactly.
I mean, I don't spend that much.
Or if they followed up with people that they had good conversations with in the past. Or, you know what I'm about to say, send some emails.
Yes.
So the reason I kind of selected those clips, and that was a montage of a couple of different parts of the conversation, was these are kind of like pressure valve moments, if you like, in that we're told we have to market, we have to do things this way, we have to do things that way. So the first clip was kind of us realising that we weren't very good at doing that and doing things in a slightly different way. And there is one of the keys to marketing is finding out how you do it best and concentrating on that. And then the second one was about if you are going to be engaging in social media, making it as easy as you can for yourself, essentially, and reaching more people through repetition.
Yeah, I actually quite needed to hear that this week because I've been so busy and it's not that we've not been marketing, that's the crazy thing. I've done loads of one-to-ones at a conference. I've done newsletters for Voiceover Social and for Hours. I've written, writing a blog. I'm doing this, that and the other. But I haven't posted on social media for ages. And there's still that guilt. Still.
Yeah.
I know I don't have to. I know it's not the end of the world. But there's something about social media that still has me just going, oh my God, the world's going to end every single damn time.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
It's so hard. I guess the only way to stop that happening is to keep practicing to not feel guilty.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I do.
Moving on, we're going to go back to Emma and Brown now.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a story about in the olden days when you used to have to go and attend studios in person and have, sessions with actual genuine real-life producers.
Going back to travelling around to sessions and how things had changed, one thing I would say is that when you're doing a session down the line, as we do now, what you don't get is that personal contact with the producer. It's not the same as seeing the whites of someone's eyes. And you did get much better interpersonal relationships when you were actually going round to radio stations, meeting producers, than you can ever really get simply by talking down an internet connection. Yeah. I think the downside, of course, is corpsing. Because
I was terrible at that.
When you get someone's eye, when you come to a line that is possibly funny and you catch the producer's eye, that's the end. Yeah. And the session for the next 15 minutes is an absolute chaotic mess. I remember there was a particular set, two examples, in fact. I was doing a session in the long-gone radio station in Leicester. It was Centre Radio, I think, in Leicester. The commercial producer was Sean Ferguson.
Oh, wow, Sean.
Do you remember?
Yes, I do.
And at that point, my wife Sue was voicing as well, and we went down as a couple and we had a double header to do with Sean. And it was a perfectly innocuous commercial. It was for a laundrette and dry cleaners. But in this double header, it ended up with a line about hand finishing. Well, we just caught each other's eyes, and that was it. That for a long while afterwards, we never got through that. We'd get as far as hand finishing, and we would all collapse. And I mean, this happened over and over again. I was in the southwest last week, and I saw a jeweller's shop in Brixham called Doble's, and that brought back an instant memory of going to Devon-Air a long while ago, and I had a commercial for Ivor Doble, the jewellers, and this is another one. It just caught you out by surprise, and you catch the producer's eye and fall about. It was coming up to Valentine's Day, and it was something to the effect of, this Valentine's Day, Give the loved one in your life the surprise of having her ears pierced.
Yes, I love the practicality of that one.
The surprise of having her ears. And of course, how ludicrous is that concept? And we just caught each other's eyes, and that was it. And we never got to the word pierced after that, because before we got ears, we'd fall about. Impossible. So the downside of face-to-face is keeping a straight face. But otherwise, I think there's a lot to be said for actually being there rather than doing a session down the line.
Oh, that was such a fun interview.
It was a great interview.
Yeah.
It really was. It was such fun to do. Yeah. And you got to remember, sort of within the context, if you can't quite remember that interview, that Emma and Brown were talking about actually voicing kind of live onto the jingle. So the jingle would be played and it would be mixed straight down onto a reel-to-reel usually. So when you are corpsing, you are ruining a perfectly good take.
Oh,
and
my
it's,
word, yeah.
a totally different ball game to just kind of stopping your Pro Tools and winding back and dropping in. So, the corpsing and the 15 minutes of laughter, and particularly if you've got to get back on the road to get to the next gig in an hour's time or whatever, pressure was really on in those sessions, and spending 50 minutes laughing at a client's poorly written script really isn't helping you get the job done.
No. Oh, brilliant. So what's next?
Next we have another clip from Jamie and Carin, and this is a cautionary tale really about auditioning and about your read when you are auditioning for a job and similar things.
We learnt this lesson. We recently did. We thought we wanted to create an ad for a podcast for evocation, and Carin and I could have done it, but we were like, oh, let's open it up to the community. It's the second time we've done this. It's just a fun, silly little thing that we do. And we received hundreds of submissions. And I would say, I don't know what this would be for you, Carin, but 70 to 80% people would just read the ad like they'd just done 25 auditions prior to that, just to get it out the door, just to get it in. Yeah. It had no personality. It had nothing individual about them whatsoever.
That's a big percentage.
The ones that really stood out were really when people just did themselves. They were just themselves, and they just enhanced that. They sort of took themselves and they just cranked it up a little bit, And I don't know what it was that you pick up on, what it is that you pick up on when you hear something that is just authentic and real, but it jumps out. Not doing any like gimmicks or changing we've been through this discussion in our Facebook group, but not changing the script, not doing a little weird lead in, like being yourself, like to the max is what stands you out. At least for me, when I was listening to all this, it jumped out to me.
It was funny. We had the first line was, "Does your voiceover business need a boost?" And there were so many people that added like a, "Hey there, does your voiceover business need a boost?" And what was so funny about it is that it really took me out of listening to all of the auditions in a row, because the first two words that they said were not what was in the script.
Yeah.
And so having that lead in made me go, oh, wait, why are they rewriting the script?
Yeah.
even though it was like a nothing couple of words, like, "Hey there, does your voiceover business need a boost?" And but it just, I don't know, it was just strange when people did that. I almost feel like if you need that to get yourself into the read, just cut it off afterwards so that you don't,
Just chop it.
so that you don't rewrite it. I mean, for us, it doesn't matter, but for a real commercial that has been through rounds and rounds of legal, and they've decided these are the words that we are allowed to say, and these are the words that we want to say, and this writer who has spent years in writing school has decided that this is what they want to do, and then the actor rewrites it. I feel like it's just not the best thing to do.
Yeah, and part of it as well is, if you're kind of casting something, you want to cast someone who can take direction well. So if they're changing the script, then that's not taking direction.
And also, it was always our intention to use the audition for the final product. So whatever anyone sent in, and we didn't say this in the audition posting, but whatever anyone sent in, we didn't want them to have to re-record it. We just wanted to say, you got the job, here's your fee, we're going to use your audition and put it in the final thing, not let's re-record. And so we wanted something that was true to the script that we wrote, because that's the script that we wrote.
Sure. Yeah.
So, but in normal situations, you do want someone to be able to take direction well so that you can direct them. That's the benefit of using a human versus AI.
So, yeah, exactly. That's really interesting.
Yes.
There's some good tips for auditions there.
There absolutely are.
Really good.
Following the brief is always advised. I think there have been some times when I've been producing a job when I know that the brief has been wrong, if I can kind of put it that way. And so it's perfectly legitimate, I think, in those kind of instances, if the client isn't involved in the session, to do what you think is the right thing. And that is a bit of a value-added service that you can do as a voiceover, but always include what you've been asked to do, because it may not be wrong.
Yeah. I think from my background working in advertising agencies, that like a 5-word sentence can have the most extraordinary amount of copywriting hours on it.
Oh, God, yes.
And it is painful to be part of that process. But yes, for that reason, sometimes it has to be read exactly as it is written.
Yeah.
And certainly for an audition, you would never want to change that on the first take. I think adding those words, the first thing that you hear, isn't what the audition script is particularly. Yeah.
I mean, if seasoned pros get thrown by the words being different, then someone who's casting you off a P2P site or something who hasn't done it before is going to be particularly thrown by it, I would imagine.
Yeah, good tips.
Back to Ray now.
Okay.
Some more talk about money.
It's interesting though, because we've seen this in my world. The story I often tell is of a friend of mine who did this amazing quiz. People love a BuzzFeed style quiz, but it was for coaching. It was a personality test, really, and you put in your info and it churned out like a profile of who you were. And this person's a very experienced coach. It was incredible. I was reading it going, how do you know that about me? It was literally saying stuff like, you like filling up your shopping cart when you're online shopping, but not checking out. It was so, which is, by the way, one of my favorite hobbies. How did they? I love it.
Yeah, I do that.
So it was super, really well done. And it was the first money course I was running, and we were sharing this in this group, and everyone was like, oh, this is so good. And somebody said in the thread, I can't wait to see what this person launches off the back of this. And then she launched a course, and it was £97. And the whole chat went, oh, I thought it was going to be great. Oh, I'm not going to do it then. Now, I know this person. Honestly, one of the most qualified coaches you could ever meet. Absolutely incredible. I know she could have changed their life for that £97, but they were put off because they presumed it was something different, the quality of the work, all of that stuff, just from the price. And it was fascinating. And I do wonder, I know it's not completely comparable, but when people have that fear, they're forgetting that what we read into prices is not just what's the cheapest. We read into it, this person's experience, this person has confidence, this person, I don't know, I think the confidence thing is massive, all these different things that we read just from that price. And I think about that a lot when it comes to us believing the lowest price is the price.
It's if you're looking around for somewhere to eat, as an example of that, and you're kind of walking past a pub and it's like 2 meals for £5. My immediate thought is, what's wrong with them?
Yeah.
Not that, I'm a Yorkshireman. I don't like spending money, but 2 meals for £5, I'm not even going I'm not even entering the restaurant, you know?
Exactly.
I love that. It is so true.
Yes, it is.
It is so true. And actually, when I picked to work and join Plenty, Ray's group coaching program, the price point did make my eyes sting a little bit, but I am so grateful that I did it.
Sure.
And because I was, as much as it it felt expensive and it felt like I was stretching my budget a little bit. It also made me really, really excited to see what I could get from it as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, it does it. If working with her it cost 50 quid, I probably wouldn't have showed up. That's the other side of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly what she's saying.
Yeah, the restaurant analogy is a great one. God, there's no way, especially not these days, trust a meal for I wouldn't trust a meal for a fiver, let alone two.
Yeah. One final clip.
Okay.
And then we can all go home. This is back to Carin talking about marketing, and this is a lot of the interviews we've had. There's been a lot of commonality in some of the things which have come out by and by. And one of those commonalities is about being yourself. Mm-hmm. And that is kind of especially true when we are thinking about marketing. And also, obviously, in your performance, as you know, we've just heard from
Carin and Jamie.
Those people. Yes. So, yeah, one final thought here from Carin, and then we're done.
So the more us we are with how we present our business, the more fun it is. And the concept of being allowed to enjoy promoting what I do is so bizarre, but I really, really love the voiceover socials and chatting to people. And I think anybody that's met either Rob or me at those events and at the conferences we're not hard, pushy salespeople because we both find it revolting. That's not us. That's not how we do it. We go and we have a laugh and it's fun and that's allowed.
More so, it's recommended, I think, because that positive energy and that love you have for the thing you sell and the love you have for your work, it comes across and it's infectious.
Maybe that's it. Maybe the top tip is to talk about what you do for a job in the same way that you would a really weird hobby.
Yeah. The weirder, the better.
Yeah, I mean, when you start talking homebrewing, you geek out and okay, admittedly not as geek out as some of the geek out people that we go to homebrew with. You're not on some of their levels.
I'm geek light.
You are geek light for homebrew. But it's exciting. You get me talking about like certain types of films or games on the Xbox or live music. Oh, my word, I will witter on at you forever about the bands that I've seen or stuff like that because I love it.
54 minutes so far.
But you would. It's that energy and you wouldn't feel ashamed to say,
no.
Oh, you seem a little bit interested. Would you like to come with me to the next gig? Or would you like to try this home brew? So why not the same with your work?
Yeah.
Share the love.
Share the love and enjoy doing it.
Rob is thinking, and shut the fuck up.
And on that note...
You've been listening to the Voiceover Social podcast, hosted by Rob Bee and Helen Bee from BEE, sponsored by BEE.
Voiceover Social. Thank you to our guests,
Carin Webber,
Paul Brown,
Emma Clarke,
Ray Dodd,
Carin Gilfry,
and Jamie Muffett.
And the socials we have coming up are the London Social on Thursday the 3rd of October, the Pint and Rabbit online social on Friday the 15th of November, the Hull Social on Saturday the 16th of November, the Hearts, Beds and Books social in Hemel Hempstead on Wednesday the 4th of December, and the Manchester Social on Saturday the 14th of December. And don't forget the Great Big Voiceover Social on Saturday the 25th of January 2025.
All audio production by Rob Bee.
Please like, subscribe and leave a review to help more voiceover people find us.
And if you want to email us, it's listen@thevosocial.com.
See you next month.
Voiceover Social.